Good morning, everybody, and welcome into a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here, back in our normal time slot. Johnny Mac from 8 to 10 a.m. this morning, covering the Philadelphia Eagles training camp, all up through the offseason, all through training camp, all through the football season. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
Doing well. Doing well. Trying to figure out why there's green by my headphones. That's a new one. But anyway, we'll try to fight through it.
Only one guarantee, John, is that something always fucking comes. I mean, we've been doing the show for 5 years. There's never been green appearing between your ears or between your head and your headphone, and now we got it. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. But other than that, back in the normal time slot. So that's something. Normal time slot.
Yeah, no doubt. Only one day this week in our normal time slot. We got two great guests planned, as always. We got Mike Gill and Brandon Lee Gouton coming up today. BLG's been at training camp, so we'll get kind of his takeaways of what he's seen live and in person. Mike Gill's obviously been covering it over at his station, so we'll talk to him a little bit about it as well. John, what's next from here, man? They're through 5 practices. They got the first preseason game is not that far away, John. August 7th. It's about a week away, 8 days away. It's next Thursday night. What's kind of the prep look like for that? And what's next in training camp as we kind of roll into, we're past the initial stages. You know what I mean? I think you start to learn a little bit more as you get into weeks 2, 3, and 4, or weeks 3, 4, and 5, I should say, of training camp. What's next for this team coming off of the first 5 practices they've had so far?
Yeah, you always have those little reboot days after you have a day off. Now the Eagles are working today. They're going to have a walkthrough. So their next day off is Saturday. And then you might see some rebooting, so to speak, when they get back on the field Sunday. There's no preparation for preseason games. So, I mean, you're going to hear those questions, which drive me insane. There's none. I mean, literally none.
Do you think because they're a younger team though that more people could play this year? I was thinking about that. Like,
well,
a little bit more youth on the roster. Maybe they get some of those guys out there for preseason.
Yeah, I mean, certain guys are going to play. I mean, Vic is very focused on competitions, obviously, and they're going to play. But I just mean from the standpoint of preparation for the game. It's just like a practice against another team. You're going to run what you're going to run. And defensively, that's a little bit reactionary towards what the opponent is going to run. But what I'm saying is, in the regular season, you're game planning. So people see a game on the schedule and they say, oh, what are they doing to prepare for insert name? Nothing in the preseason. That's not what it's about. And there's certainly the Eagles are hyper focused on not. Nick Sirianni believes whether you agree with him or not, one of the few advantages early in the season is that some of the tweaks and some of the changes and some of the evolution you don't show. And that's why they have these walkthroughs, because they like to hide stuff from us as well, because they don't want it leaking out. So from that standpoint, you're very vanilla when it comes to what you're showing. And yeah, it's just another opportunity, and it's a good opportunity to play against and judge yourself against another team. But nothing changes from a preparation standpoint. It's just training camp,
right?
And you'll have a walkthrough and try to replicate. That might be the bigger part of an actual preseason game, is the logistics of a game day. The coach's communication, right, that kind of stuff. You can get a dry run through that, and that might be more important than anything going on the field. Going on the field, the reps are valuable. You're padded, it's live. You don't get that in training camp very often. And usually when the Eagles do, it's 1 third team period, third team against third team, because they don't want to get anybody hurt. So, that part's valuable, the live part of it. And yeah, I mean, corner, safety, linebacker, you have all these competitions, defense, edge rusher. Vic will want to see those players. So I think you're going to see plenty of defensive players play. Offensively, they're going to be more cautious because they're so entrenched. But still plenty to look at when it comes to backups and things like that.
Yep, no doubt. Looking forward to that. So that'll be next Thursday night and rolling along here today. The Eagles have a walkthrough, so that is why we are in the morning slot. So John will not be down at the NovaCare today, and then we are back out there Thursday, Friday. So we will have a nightcap Birds 365s on Thursday and Friday. Johnny Mac, what's the weekend? Let me look at your email. Normally, you sent me the schedule. Let me make sure I know where we are on the schedule. Saturday they're off, and then Sunday they're back on the field. So a little bit of a different schedule this week. Saturday is the players' day off, and then probably makes sense because of the Thursday Eagles versus Bengals preseason game. So we'll have an interesting setup. But Saturday players off, Sunday they're back out there, Monday, Tuesday back out there, Wednesday walkthrough, Thursday game versus the Bengals. That's what the next week's schedule looks like, and then we'll cover the that game for everybody as well here on JAKIB Sports. Johnny Mac, what changed when the pads came on at camp? I think we've gotten some good intel from camp so far just on who's where and who's progressing nicely to kind of get to the spot. There's definitely still some questions remaining. The pads came on yesterday, and I think that's when things get a little bit more real. How was the intensity of practice yesterday with the full pads, and how that changed the dynamic of training camp?
Yeah, I mean, that's how you play football. So no matter what anybody says, and Cam Jurgens said what he said this week about 7-on-7s, and we've talked a lot about that. That's not how you play football. How you play football is 11-on-11 in pads. So that's more indicative of what's going on. Vic had thrown water on one-on-one drill. Everybody loves one-on-ones. I said yesterday, everybody loves it. Everybody loves watching it. And Vic threw cold water on it and said, yeah, it doesn't factor much into my evaluation for that same reason. That's not how you play football. And, with all that space, Anaya Smith looks pretty good against Cooper DeJean. When it's condensed, he doesn't look too good against anybody.
Right.
So there's a lot of guys who, I always show you flag football is going to be in the Olympics in a couple of years. And, everybody's like, who in the NFL would be the best flag football players if they want to go play in the Olympics? And there's better flag football players to be on that team than guys in the NFL because it's a different sport. And they play it all the time. So, that's how you play professional football, 11-on-11 in pads. So, yeah, it's far, far more meaningful than anything that's been going on that predates the pads coming on for the first time.
Yep. Johnny Mac, I want to talk about the cornerback situation, and we'll see how that progresses, everything obviously with the pads coming on. But going to the cornerback conversation, Keely Ringo, Adoree Jackson, other. Who's got the lead in the clubhouse right now, and who's going to be the starter in week one?
Yeah, I'm still in Kelly Ringo having the advantage, because they want him to be there. So you have that inside track. Doesn't mean you're going to finish it. And I think you saw from Vic's comments yesterday, I think a lot of other people were more hyped up by Adoree Jackson than Vic Fangio. So, and I think, the little indications about moving Kaylee to the left side, getting Quinyon reps on the right side, you can see them trying to develop a well-rounded sort of cohesive core.
Right.
Doesn't mean he's going to win the job, although he has played better over the past couple of days. But I think it's a big advantage when you're the guy that they want to win the job. It's your job to lose. So
doesn't Vic kind of change that a little bit though? Like different coach, maybe I agree a little bit more, but I think with Vic here, If you can't play, I don't give a shit who wants you to be the starter. Vic will not put you as the starter. Or I don't know, maybe I'm off base. What do you think?
Well, no, that's true, but Vic wants him to be the starter.
Yeah, right.
So, but if he doesn't earn it, he's not going to start. He's not to the point where I'm going to start him no matter what.
Right.
But no, this is not a how he drafted him, how he wants him. No, Vic wants him to be the starter. You saw the lukewarm words about Adoree Jackson. He wants him to be the starter. So he's got the inside track, similar to, I think, Makuba did coming into camp over Sidney Brown. The injury is going to affect that, and Sidney's playing better. So, I'm not as high on Makuba starting, even though Vic wants that, probably what Vic wants. But I am higher on Ringo starting because that has been closer. And you could argue that Ringo has been better. And I think highlighting by Vic's comments, Vic thinks he's been better. So I think he's got the advantage.
Yep, making progress there in the cornerback spot. We'll see how that progresses. I do wonder if Ringo is going to be, I know they want him to win it, but will he seize the job? Will he get it, own it, and then not need to be replaced? That's a bigger question and something that will unfold as the year begins. Johnny Mack moving to the safety. You just mentioned it a little bit. Sidney Brown having a good camp, John. That's at least what it seems to me. Everybody I've talked to, everybody I've read and heard has said Sidney's looked pretty good in camp, and then Makuba gets a little banged up. I mean, you mentioned it yesterday. I mentioned it on the morning show that people didn't like hearing it from me, but 3 days of practice and you're hurt, and you want me to fucking expect you to play 20 games on a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and you're 185 pounds soaking wet? Yeah, I got some concern there, Johnny Mack. I think Sidney Brown might end up with that job, or maybe outside the locker room. I'll give you the same question there as I did on corner. Sidney, Makuba, or other, who has the slight lead in the clubhouse there?
Sidney, but it might be other down the road with Cooper DeJean. Depending on, again, you have all these moving parts. You have to figure out who's going to play in the slot. So, boy, I just get the feeling they want Cooper to be the safety, or Vic does. Long term, not short term, because this year he's going to be safety and base and slot. And then I'm sure they'll try to figure it out, just because I think he can have more of an impact on the game. I think they feel that way. But we'll see how it shakes out. Makuba, I mean, the fact that people don't like that you said that is silly. I mean, what it's 3 practices in, he can't practice. And you've already seen some of the size deficiencies with, being matched up in the middle of the field with Dallas Goedert. So anybody who's insulting you for making that connection is silly. And obviously they just don't want to hear anything that isn't pie in the sky positive. He's, it behooves him to get back as quickly as possible. And it doesn't look like it's terribly serious. I mean, he's on the field watching. Again, if an injury is serious, they're not going to let the player watch. It's not going to be on the field. So I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing or anything of that nature. But as we saw last year with Cooper, the more time and Tyler Steen, more of a veteran, the more time you miss, the less likely you're gonna be a starter.
Exactly. Vic clearly cares about these training camp reps for young guys, John.
Oh yeah, and that's on the offensive side. I mean, Tyler Steen hurt his ankle on the day 3 and missed 9 days or 10 days, and he lost the job. So Andrew Makuba got hurt on day 3. If he misses 9 or 10 days, he might lose the job. Now, long term, again, there's different.
You think it's 9 or 10 days, or do you think it's going to be quicker than that?
Well, I mean, I hate when people ask me injury questions.
Yeah, because you got no gauge.
I mean, there's just no way. I mean, players don't know because they're not doctors. You know, I remember when Britton Covey told us he broke his hand. He didn't. You know, and I love Britton. You think you sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. But again, the indications of him being on the field watching is positive from the standpoint it's not terribly serious. But a sprained ankle is not terribly serious. And Tyler Steen lost the job over it.
Right.
So again, long term, who cares? McCube is going to be here, and it's all about his development as a player long term. But short term, if you're worried about week one, he better get on the field as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and the possibility obviously exists that maybe Cooper goes back to safety. We will see a lot of options there. We'll see how it develops. John, 5 days in, has your thoughts and your feelings on the edge rushing room, have they improved at all, or is that still the big glaring spot on this team that you think they do not have enough? What's your thoughts on that after 5 days of camp?
Yeah, to me, it's pretty glaring, especially when Nolan went down with a concussion and he wasn't practicing yesterday. And then you really see it up front and personal. You know, one injury, and it doesn't look good. Now, you know, Azeez Ojulari hasn't done much. Josh Uche been a little bit better. Patrick Johnson's just he's a good player to have. But he's not, you don't want him playing major snaps on the edge.
Right.
You know, he's a nice role player who can do a bunch of different things. You know, APR doesn't look like he's pushing for any meaningful playing time as a rookie, and nobody should expect a 6th-round pick to do that. I don't know why anybody would.
Does Uche look the best out of the guys after the top two and Nolan and Jalix?
Yeah, I would say so. But, you know, again, part of that is he's gotten a little bit more of an opportunity. But Azeez hasn't done much on the second team either. Gets an occasional first team rep. And again, you have to factor in who they're going against. I mean, that factors into it as well. That might be the toughest practice day for any Eagles player, the edge rushers, going against Lane and Jordan. Yeah, you could argue the corners against AJ and Devontae. But that's a tough practice day, and they all get depressed. You know, even Nolan the other day, he's an upbeat guy. You know, people talk about him being the replacement for Brandon Graham as far as the energy guy. He's an upbeat guy by nature. And he was like, I got 1% worse today. It's like you never hear that. Because he just, you know, Lane shut him down. So you got to factor that in as well. Who they're practicing. Like Moro Jomos look like Alan Page. For old heads, that's a Hall of Famer. You know,
it's a big comment right there. Moro Jomos had a good camp.
Yeah, but he's going against Tyler Steen.
Yeah, so it's hard to gauge.
So people have to look at the other side. You know, so Nolan can't look like Deacon Jones because he's going against Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson. Jalix Hunt can't look like, you know, prime Khalil Mack because he's going against Jordan Mailata. You have to factor in that as well.
Yeah, we'll see. Johnny Mac, let's get to a super chat. We're going to get to Mike Gill in just a second here on Birds 365, a little Wednesday edition. here on the show. 8 days out from the first preseason game, 36 days out from the Eagles opener versus the Dallas Cowboys. Nate the guy checking in. What's up, Nate? J Mac Izzle. I say we play 4-3 when Kobe gets back. All of our best players would be on the field. I think our linebackers is the best group on the defense. I actually don't hate that suggestion. I just don't think Vic would do it.
Well, if you got a time machine, you can go back to the 1980s, he would. But as long as people play 11 personnel, you don't want to be with 3 linebackers on the field dealing with receivers in this league. It's not tenable. The defense is reactionary. If there's 3 receivers and everybody plays 11 personnel, Vic's just complaining about it. He can't get enough reps in the base defense in practice to see what Cooper DeJean can do at safety, because all the Eagles are in his 11. And the Eagles are in 11 less than anybody else, with the possible exception of Baltimore. Overall, everybody plays 11. And some teams spread it out even more than that. And I don't care how good your linebackers are. Linebackers can't cover running backs, right? Never mind receivers in this league. So unless you got that time machine, that ain't happening.
Yeah, no, not happening. Nate, appreciate the super chat, brother. I hear your thought process. You got a lot of good linebackers there. You want to get them on the field. Nakobe at the mic. You got 2 other guys next to him. But yeah, Johnny Mac is right. You're not going to do that when you got 3 receivers on the field. John, good stuff there. Good opening segment today, as we are now 5 days done and dusted in training camp, moving along. Eagles have a walkthrough practice today. Their off day this week will be Saturday, as I mentioned, and then the first preseason game is next Thursday versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Should be a good one. I think we're going to have a chance to at least see some of these players, because we got a much younger roster this year. So we will see who gets to play and who doesn't in the preseason game.